Welcome to Opinionated, brought to you by the Black Star Network and sponsored by the Black Bird Empire. So today we're discussing a very touchy topic, and it's on being black in today's society. Is it a blessing or is it a curse? So today I've got with me Leah, I've got Tia, I've got Rena, and I've also got Ayuba. Right, so where do we start from today's topic? How do you guys feel about being black to begin with?
This is a really, really deep topic. There's so many things we can talk about it, but I'll just be honest from the get-go. I think being black in today's society, it can be a struggle, especially if you're talking about in the workplace, or if you're talking about, sometimes in the media as well. As you know, I personally think there's a systematic sort of racism that we have in society today. But I think as black people, we need to learn how to support each other and sort of rise above it. I think sometimes we feel like, white people like owe us something, and we try and, when it comes to the workplace, or we expect to be promoted because, we're a minority, but we need to remember that we need to support each other and build an empire for ourselves. Yes. Because I personally think the world has changed, in many forms, but I don't think there's ever going to be equality in this world. I really don't think there is.
Ayuba, what do you think about, how do you feel about being black in today's society?
Well, I agree with your point. I think being black in today's society, I think it has the potential to be a real blessing, to be honest. But I think we're very divided as a people. Just every day when you see it, the area that I live in there's a lot of black people, and you'd expect an area where there's a high population of black people to kind of be like a community, but it's not. And I feel that just kind of takes away from our chances of kind of achieving what we can achieve as a people together. So yeah.
You touched on potential when you say we have the potential. Yeah. What do you mean by that?
I mean, you always hear about like different statistics and stuff about how black people, like the black race is a $1 billion race and stuff, and how we spend so much on a lot of things. But if you were to kind of have this collective mindset where as a race we were to kind of work together, and it doesn't even have to be a huge scale, just in your community, I feel that can make a huge change. Because being black nowadays, from my perspective, I feel that even though there's a lot of black people around you, you're still a bit alone, because there's so much conflict between black people.
Do you think it's like that everywhere? Do you think there's so much conflict between black people everywhere in the whole world?
I mean, there's definitely some areas where I think black people would, but there wouldn't be conflict. But I would say that when you look at a lot of different areas, it's like there's a competition. And just for example, if I was to say inside of my area, or going to my school, or there's never really been a collaboration. But then when I look at like pupils from other races, like for example, inside of my school, there's always like black people fighting black people and all of this. But then we always look at kind of the Asian batch. That's what we call them, like the Asian group of friends, and they're tight. They don't, they're close. It's just stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I want to touch on something. Yeah, Karen.
I was going to touch up on the same thing really about being in schools, and I had this very bad experience when I was actually in primary school. I was in year 5, and I moved to a new primary school, and the majority of the school pupils that were there were white and Caucasian, and me, I was probably like the 3rd black person in that school. So me moving into a school like that, it was quite intimidating and quite threatening at the same time. And within a couple of months, I did actually receive quite bad racial abuse, to the point of where my mum had to take me out of the school. She had to appeal in court for my case, and I had to get home to because of it. And I mean, in a sense like that, being in a school where you're a minority, it's very intimidating, like I just said, and you know, you can actually feel left out, lonely, where nobody understands where you've come from and you're receiving abuse from A, B, and Z. You know, it does actually.
What kind of abuse did you like?
Oh, why is your hair like that? It just looks horrible. Why is it like this? You can't even put a comb straight through it. Stuff like that, because obviously when I was in primary school I wore my afro, and you know, I wasn't ashamed, because when you're bringing up, your mum used to plait your hair in two, if not a pineapple, one whole black coming around the head, like, you know, so it stood out from pupils who had straight hair and who wore a ponytail, and your hair was out and it was different, so it appealed to so many people. Why is it different? Why does it look like that? Why does it feel like that? And for me it was again, like, really quite a lonely time in my life where I experienced that.
Yeah? What about you, Tia? How do you feel being black in today's society? I know hers was a bit more like emotional, but what about yourself?
Like, I can't personally say that I've ever experienced anything to that extent. Like, that's quite extreme. I feel like a lot of the stuff as a community, people do it to themselves also, because okay, this might have happened and that might have happened, but at the same time you can't keep banging on about it without trying to rewire your mindset, your mentality, do you know what I mean? Okay, what are we going to do from this day forth, like, to make everything better? Do you know what I mean? So, you know, if you keep like just thinking about what happened in the past, hey, it happened in the past, like, kind of thing, but you're still dwelling on it, and you're not pushing forward to like rewire, like, and you're putting this down into your children. So your children now, say your children feel worthless. So you're being told, oh, you know, oh, if you're black, that, you know, you're going to be arrested. So you know I'm not letting you're not going here, or whatever, or something like that, you know, for example. Or you're being told that, oh yes, slavery happened. That was a very small section. It was a big catastrophe, but it was a small section in time, because black people have contributed to the world. But some stuff has been covered, some has been lost, some has been destroyed. But that's going a bit deeper. But as soon as you're skimming the surface, you just got to try and rewire yourself.
The question is, how I feel is, are we proud as 4 women standing or sitting right here to be black women? And the reason I ask that is because not one of us are wearing our natural hairstyle, which to me, you know, whether it's a blessing or a curse, it's the fact of the matter is, are we really happy with ourselves as black women and as black men? But obviously I can't say anything about him.
I think one thing with that topic, I think partly black men are partly responsible for the reason why black women may not be proud to be black.
Can you elaborate on that?
Because I think
kind of needs a clap still.
no, but I think that when we look at it, I feel that nowadays black women are just, they're not treated with as much respect.
Exactly.
I think, and I feel like black men sort of take advantage of black women in a way.
What does as much respect mean?
As in, you know how you have like the stereotypes of black women?
Yeah.
And
What are the stereotypes?
as in being
Stubborn,
loud and ratchet and all of that
and
stuff.
sexual objects.
Yeah, and all of that. And I feel that men really play into that, and I'd say ignorantly, they see all black women as that. And for that reason, it's like you can just treat a black woman anyhow, kind of, or you wouldn't want to be in a relationship with a black woman or something like that. And then, as much as women, like, there's a lot of very strong women that feel that they can like withstand that, but then it still plays on your emotion, it plays on how you feel about yourself. And I feel that over time, and the longer it happens, and I think it gets worse as well, that the way in which black women view themselves are greatly kind of...
But the thing is, a black woman would never say she's trying to look like a white woman by wearing synthetic hair wash, you know, like a synthetic
Okay, let me just ask you guys
that.
this, right? Now, when I asked all of you about how you feel in today's society being black, I think apart from you, it's all been, you have to do this, you have to do that. Like, no positive thing has come out of it. Does that mean that other races don't don't feel the same? Does that mean that Hispanics, Eastern Europeans, or even the white people or Caucasian people themselves, are you saying that they're living in a happy world because they're not black?
No, but what I will say is, like, obviously, just being a black person, I think, you know, I'm very proud to be black. I'm very proud of my culture, and I think as black people, we are very intelligent and we have a lot to give in society in this world. But, you know, let's be honest here. I think that, you know, I know that you said that racism was just a very small part, but I have to disagree with you. I think slavery, was a small part. I think that, you know, we were slaves for over 400 years.
And mentally, we're still being enslaved.
We are still being enslaved. And I think a lot of the things that we go through today is almost a domino effect of what happened in slavery.
Exactly.
In terms of what you mentioned about why black women wear European hairstyles and why we think that's more beautiful, why black men look at us a certain way and kind of, you know, draw this stereotype about how we are. All of that has a lot to do with slavery. Now, what I will say, to answer your question, the reason why I feel like we're saying so many negative things about being black in society is because
it actually has a dominant effect.
It has a dominant. It's a domino effect.
So do you not
and it's a cycle. Like every time you apply for a job, you know, they're looking at your skin colour, they look at your head, they look at your name. If it's Shaniqua, they're not gonna, you know, accept your application because you're not Shaniqua. You must be black. You know, it's Shanice, you must be black. These kind of names, they put a stereotype in people's minds to then perceive you in a manner where you're not good enough for that role.
So, but the Holocaust, for instance, was a huge thing. I mean, people still talk about the Holocaust now, but you don't see the races that suffered the Holocaust making a big deal about how that has affected their race so much, like black people. And why do you think that is?
I think that mainly because the Jewish community now are they kind of segregate and separate themselves from a lot of other races in this world. They own things, they have their own thing, they support each other. But when it comes to the blacks, we've kind of been, you know, because of slavery, because of everything that happened, we've
naturally got a divide.
We've got a divide. We don't come together.
We do not unite like any other race, Asians, you know, the whites. The people unite and they come together to support their race and their thing. Black people, and no matter what shape or form, they don't come together and unite. That's why we're lacking in business.
So why do you think that is? Why do you think we don't come together?
I think there's
because
a lot
black
of
people are
reasons.
ignorant. That's what it is. You know, they actually look at the other black person like, you're not any better than me. You're actually probably the same as me, if not even lower than me. Because they look at the white man like a higher man. You know.
Why do you think we do that?
Because we've been immune to be put that way. We've been taught to do that. We've been taught to look at the white man like he's superior to us.
And I think I just want to say, to link to that point, another reason why is because nowadays, and I'm not sure if you might agree with me on this, but everything that makes you successful, makes you kind of climb up that kind of hierarchy in society, has to do with white. When you think about it, all of the car brands and stuff, it's not black CEOs that own these like Mercedes and Bentley and stuff.
But some of the greatest things out there are black people.
I know, but
then a list of things that black people have made that people don't want to publish because they want to look like the white man did it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, but when you think about it,
we weren't going through slavery days for nothing. We made certain things that man don't even know black people made. You know, they'll say it's China, they'll say it's the Englishman, but no, we made it.
Exactly, but then, for example, if we were to go to Oxford Street and look at all of the brands, now, what makes us, like when we buy those brands, we buy it and we look at it and we go in the adverts and everything, and you have to see that all of these stuff that's associated with sort of hierarchy and being better than another person, it's like the more white things you get, or the more things that are associated with a white person, the better.
Yeah, but living in a country like England, you practically don't have a choice. I mean, if you go to an African country or a Caribbean country or an Asian country, I'm pretty sure the high streets are filled with makes of their own.
I agree, but it's not global. It's not on a global scale. It's not seen as being something that's glamorous or something that's desired.
But do you think that is someone else's fault or our fault?
Of course it's our fault, but what I'm saying is it stems from somewhere. Like, you know, Kanye West was made out to be this crazy psychopathic guy that's always ranting, and I used to think he was, but he did an interview with Ellen DeGeneres, and he was just saying, no, it was with Sway in the morning, where he was just like, but it ain't Ralph though. Do you remember that one? And he was complaining that, you know, you know, the corporations aren't letting him create luxury brands. And I'm thinking, oh, all this guy cares about is money. But it was really deep what he was saying. He was trying to say that, you know, a black person can't own something that's desirable by the masses.
Yeah.
But what does that mean?
And what he
Yeah.
meant by that,
you
it's
see
our
that,
fault.
you see, say for instance, a black man has got a good job, a 9 to 5, he's walking or he's driving around in his BMW, nice white BMW, he gets pulled over because he's got a nice car.
Yeah.
The police are like, why have you got a nice car? What, you know, what do you do for work? You know, do you sell drugs? No, I don't sell drugs, boss man, you know, I work 9 till 5. But he don't believe it, because as far as he's concerned, a black man should be out there, or is out there, shooting everyone, you know, selling drugs and knifing everyone. That's the perception that, you know, fair enough, a lot of people, white people, have got about black men.
And I think, sorry, I just wanted to say, I think success, it links kind of back to what I said, and links to what you said. And with that man that's working the 9 to 5, the reason why he's desired in the black community, or he's respected a lot, is because he's living a white lifestyle.
Yeah.
When it's true,
I know
but
what you mean, yeah.
it's like the closer to being white that you are, when you have the white brands and you're living a white
Getting
life and you have the 9 to 5.
What is the white life?
But
Or
you
white
see that
lifestyle?
same white man,
The
the same white
stereotypical
man
white
that's working that 9 to 5 job, he ain't going home to a black woman, he's going home to a white woman. And it's because he feels like he's stepped up a level. He's got a fantastic job, you know, he's earning money. So he feels like he needs a white woman instead of a black woman, because he looks down. He feels like it's belittling him. And I've heard this myself from black men saying this to myself, you know.
Look,
And
I work in the financial industry, and I know black guys that, because they're making good money, they think that they are better than other black guys that are not doing what they're doing or making money. You have no idea.
What,
like,
doing
they
what
will
they're
literally,
doing, in what
in
sense?
terms of like working in banking, like being a banker, they make a lot of money. So, you know, they look down upon guys that are black, but they're not bankers, they're not doing what they're doing. But I don't feel that is the same in other cultures as much. I really don't think it is.
What do you think, Tia?
Yeah.
I think it would be ignorant to say that there isn't, say, a problem.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there's a bigger picture, which is divide and conquer. How many things can you give this race to make them still think, oh yeah, we're down, we're this, we're that, and then I'm going to give this race so that, oh yes, you lot are yellow skinned and you have small penises and do you know what I mean? Or you lot eat cat, rat and dog, and then I'm going to go to the Indians and say you lot smell like curry, like you lot are like mainly wear glasses, like, and just like you. Do you know what I mean? Different cultures, but it's another strategy, and that's no offense to anybody, by the way. That is just another strategy to divide and conquer. Do you know what I mean? Not we have language barrier, and also now you're going to give people mental conflicts.
That is the thing.
Internal conflict. So whatever has happened, it's like throwing a stone. So you'll throw the stone, and the stone has a ripple effect. Yeah, and that ripple effect will keep flowing down until somebody breaks the cycle, right? So now it's for the new generation to break that cycle, because at the end of the day, it's not like things haven't progressed.
No,
like I said when I first started speaking, it'd be ignorant to say there wasn't a problem, but you're not the only people with these certain problems. It's just a different way, i.e. the Holocaust, where it's just different ways. People need to see the bigger picture. Yes, Rome wasn't built in a day, and yes, people still have these concepts, like mind concepts or whatever, like who is fairer, who's darker. Do you know what I mean? I even heard it from my own parents, and what my aunt used to say about how she hates her Negro hair and all those kind of things. So you're hearing these things as children, and you're growing up with them, but it's up to you to try and rewire that, because what you think kind of present on the outside. So if you think something, the grass is green, but it's actually like, you know, it's moving into autumn, it's going a bit brown, but you're seeing green because you're still trying to project what you're feeling on the inside. I don't know if that's a good annotation, but you know, you've got to kind of change the mindset. And if we don't break the mindset, then we're going to keep mentally suffering and going forward and thinking, oh, I'm not good enough, this is not good, do you know, I don't like this, do you know, kind of thing.
Let me bring this home a bit. Right? So, we're talking about being black in today's society, and I think everybody was thinking about being in England, right? So, I know I'm Ghanaian and you're Ghanaian too. I'm pretty sure we know a little bit about our heritages. And if we were to go back home, do you think everything would be all like liberal and all like fun, because finally we're in like a black society where we don't have to compete with a white man or somebody of another race?
No, I still think there will be major competition.
Definitely.
You know, between any humans, there's naturally going to be competition between a man and a woman, between a couple and a man. You know what I mean? There's going to be competition, and no matter what form you go in your life, you're going to bump into someone who wants to compete with you, even if it's your own race. So if you was to go back to your own hometown, I think you would still experience a bit of discrimination.
What
in
kind
the
of discrimination would that be?
Maybe that you're a female, maybe that you're not from this country, or maybe that you've come back.
So it won't have to be
I
about
think that-
being black anymore.
No, it won't be
It
about
is,
being
I
black
feel
because
like it
you've
is.
come back
Like-
to your hometown where the majority of the people are black.
I feel like with black people, and I think it happens in a lot of places, but when so now we've moved from London where there's lots of different people and the discussion is being black, and now we're in Africa where there's black people everywhere, so you can't give that excuse. So what's the next excuse? You're from this tribe, you're from that tribe,
But
you're
it's
from
not just
Nigeria,
that,
you're
though.
So
from
is it
Ghana.
all
It's
down to
still-
I feel
us
like-
making excuses because we're
I
sitting
think-
here and we're having this discussion
I-
and
Yeah.
we're all trying to look beyond what we're talking about right now. And do you think that if like other people had to look beyond, now we wouldn't be having this conversation at all?
But to touch back on what you said, I don't think it, and I think it's not just tribe you're from this tribe, you're from that tribe. I think it is still to do with where you're from in the world, because let's not.
That's what
where,
I'm saying.
where are you
That's
from?
what
Are you
I'm
Ghanaian?
saying. Like, obviously,
Gambia.
if you come
Yeah.
from somewhere else, you've come back to the country.
Yeah, they're going to
gonna
rate
just-
you more.
yeah,
like
rate
if
you
you
more.
went to Gambia, I guarantee you having a
Yeah,
British
I've been there.
accent
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
being from
It's
London.
like my
that
mum.
was-
My mum said
in
like
Gambia,
your
it's
stories.
actually-
My mum said something story. She's
I
come
think-
off a plane from Jamaica,
Yeah.
and they've suddenly said you're foreigner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're a foreigner. Because that's what they say. When,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And-
Like you're foreigner, you're not from here.
Yeah.
And she was like, she didn't even have to speak for them
Yeah,
to say that.
yeah,
All
yeah,
she
of
did is
course.
come off the plane, and they're coming up to her like you're a foreigner.
They
you're a
just
foreigner.
treat you different because
And
they
they
think
treat
you're
you
better
different
because
because
you're
they
from a
know.
white
Do you know what I mean?
man's
So
Whether
who's
you're
they?
from the same
And that
Who's
links
they,
back to
guys?
that
Who's
links back
they?
to having.
Who's they?
The other
As
people
in
in
people
the other
that-
country, the black
that
people
live
that have
in
got the same
Africa,
skin
that
colour
live
as
in
you, they'll
Jamaica.
still discriminate you because you're still not from that land as far as they're concerned. You might have the same skin colour, but if you weren't born and raised in that country, they're not going to see you as the same.
And I think that
It's
links
just
back
like
to
here,
what we
but
were
now
saying.
it's different because skin colour is involved. Do you know what I mean?
I think
That's
that
it.
links back to what we were saying about how, you know, about having like a glimpse of the white man's lifestyle, and I think that's what it's
The way
like.
you're putting it.
The way I'm putting it is probably sounds a bit mad, but I think, but when you think about it, when I say the white man's lifestyle, I mean like,
I would say like that.
no, yeah, maybe I should word
I
it
wanted to
differently.
laugh.
Maybe I should word it differently, but then when I say that, I mean like, for example, getting a Merc,
Yeah.
a Mercedes, or getting like a Bentley, like I said before. These are all white brands. Let's be honest.
Yeah, they are.
And now when we go to Africa, England is or America is seen as a white man's country.
Yeah.
That
Seen
links
as-
to having
yeah,
the
yeah,
kind of so when
Thank you.
so I feel that now when you're there and when you're in Africa, that instantly is a divide. And then I feel like obviously if you're there and you're born in Africa and you've never been to England and this still goes on, there's still always a divide. What is the cause for that divide? And that's where I feel like other things come in. And I feel like the more separated we become as a people, the worse it becomes. Because the more we get separated within tribes, and then now for no reason tribes are trying to beef each other. Like, do you even know what was the main cause of your beef? Because it happened hundreds of years ago.
And
more
they
we
don't
get-
know about it,
Yeah, and the more, and even in like from young, it starts off as like banter. It starts off with, inside of my school, there was always Nigeria versus Ghana.
Yeah, but
And
Why
me
is
being
that?
This
Ghanaian-
is the thing.
Why is
When
that?
you've got
So
land,
silly.
you've already got racism. Whether it's like, do you know what I mean? There's always going to be discrimination, stereotype, or racism. If you've got land, whether you're the same skin colour, whether you're the same kind of
100%,
people,
we're
whether you're from the
humans.
same place, there's going to be some kind of
Yeah.
animosity between colour
but then I feel
even
like-
where you're from.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me just add this. So, are we saying that the people that we're referring to as they, whether back home or whether in England, they don't go through anything like what we're discussing today? For instance, the Caucasian. Do you think that they don't go through this? Do they not? They
I
just
think-
Not necessarily.
I don't
no,
think it's
they're
as
not
Okay,
around-
why do you
they're
think
not
so?
kind- They're not around that kind of environment. Do you know what I mean? That's it. Because they're
But
in
for instance,
an
I mean,
environment where
you-
it's mainly populated black people. They're never going to come across an environment where they have to deal with the white man, where they're going to have troubles applying for a job because the white man's in control.
So do you think that if the French person comes to England, they're not going to face this kind of discrimination?
Let's do Polish
No,
people.
of
Let's
course,
talk
do you know what I
about
mean? That's,
Polish
yeah,
people.
Eastern
Okay?
Europeans, for
Right.
instance. Do you know what I mean?
So,
But they
Polish
get
people-
majority of the jobs.
Polish people are Europeans, okay? They are white. But the English people, a lot of English people do not like Polish people, even though they are white. And
Why is that?
so racist towards
It's like
them.
the Irish as well, for example.
Just like the
the
Irish, okay? So before the referendum, we was part of the European Union. But if you guys notice, British people didn't really refer to themselves as European.
Yeah.
They separated themselves completely. Okay, so when Polish people started coming into this country, they saw them as they're taking over their jobs, they're taking over the NHS, but it wasn't the skin colour. It was the fact that they were from another country.
Let's be real.
So it's different. Do you understand what I mean?
So is it possible that what we black people feel as a people is the same thing that another race
Yeah,
feels?
of course, but it's
Yeah, but not
different.
necessarily,
History is
because the white
different.
man
To
would
be
rather
honest.
employ a
But
white man
yeah,
that's got his own
the
skin
history
colour. Do you know what I mean?
is
Whether you're
different.
from a
To be
different part of the
honest.
country, you would rather employ somebody else with the same skin colour as you than take a black person.
Yeah.
To
But
be
I don't
honest,
think that's racist.
I think with
I
black
don't,
people,
I don't know if
I
it's
think
racist
that's
or not, but you know what I mean? I think it's kind of a division
Yeah.
because, you know what I mean, you can say you don't like an Eastern European, but you rather hire them to be part
Yeah,
of your
of course.
workplace than a black person.
Yeah.
to be honest, I think with black people, one thing that we don't really have, or that we have but it's kind of messed up, that other people from other races have,
Thank you.
is like the history, the
Yeah.
sense of pride in our culture.
Yeah.
When we look at, even being here in London, it's like, I heard Chinese people talk about their Chinese history and Chinese New Year, all of that, and they go way back to emperors and stuff like that, and we go back to poverty and slavery. You know, it's true, but let's be honest, and that links to
Don't kill me.
that links to, or at least that's what we're told, that. And when a lot of people, black people that
Yeah,
grew
but
up in
there's
this
a lot of
country,
stuff to be accomplished, you know what I mean? There's a lot of things to look up to and say, yeah,
Exactly.
we conquered so much. Martin Luther King, do you know what I mean? All
Yeah,
these
but then
great
even-
people that
but-
conquered.
But, it's,
But
but
the
you
only
see, that's
thing-
why
the only thing I'm
it
saying-
goes back to the mental rewiring.
but the only thing I'm
But
saying
remember
with
what I
that
said,
is,
it goes
you
back
need
to
to
that
stop
point
thinking
in
it.
time. Everybody keeps going back to this one point in time.
Yeah.
Which
That
is the
one
same
But then-
point
but
in
then
time.
if I'm saying
learn
this-
from somewhere.
now-
So there's
Like,
our
Martin
language.
Luther King-
there's people being enslaved in all countries, yeah. But that's what I'm saying. It's you got to break that mental cycle. Going back before that time, what happened before that time? There was great empires. There was
Yeah, but black people know our history. We know where we stem from.
That's
we know
what I'm
we was
saying.
the first people born on this land.
Do we though?
We're the strongest
No, we don't.
people.
Exactly.
How do we not know
I don't
this?
think
But
we do.
I want to
And
there's
there's,
proof
to
of
be
it.
honest, I
There's
think
general knowledge of this, that there's proof of this out there everywhere.
Do you know-
what I mean? We're the
do-
first
do-
people that was born
do-
in this land. We are the strongest, physically, mentally.
We're the
obviously
strongest
because we've
physically
been
because
through
we
so
were
much
whipped
things.
when we were building the
We've been
building,
diminished,
that's
we've been brainwashed to think
Yes.
like dumb people, and that's what we've become, to the
The
point
but-
where we're killing each other.
What-
That's
what I'm trying to say
wait,
is-
one
oh, yeah,
moment.
no, yeah.
Let me just give Tia a minute. She didn't finish what she was
Do you
saying.
know what? I think there's a quote that says, "Don't let your schooling affect your education." So if you're not being presented the information that you need, we now live in times where you can go and look up that information for yourself. Go and look at your own history. Instead of thinking, that's what I'm saying, the mental rewiring. If people keep going back to this one point in time, you're gonna feel like shit. Yeah, and you're
No, I
going to
agree.
continue. Then your doors.
But
your
most
son-
people need to know where they
And-
came from in the first place,
Well,
and
but
some people
I think-
don't. So you
But
need to
this
start from somewhere.
that's what you have a tool. If you have the will inside of you to change that and be like, okay, I'm going to find out for myself because I'm not getting any answers, so I'm going to find out for myself. So you take it upon yourself to go onto the internet, go on Google, go to a library, go travel to another country if need be. Go look at the architecture, go and learn about the history. Do you know what I mean? You've got all this DNA ancestry test that you can swab and look at other things. Take it upon yourself to make a change. Why everybody sitting here, sitting wherever, sitting in America, sitting in Africa, thinking, oh, woe is me. This happened. Yes, it happened. It wasn't very nice. It was not a very nice point in time. Yes, it still has a ripple effect, but you need to break that ripple effect. Enough is enough.
But I think that's what
Yeah.
we're
I
talking
think-
about. We're talking about the issues that's happened today because of the ripple effects. Not to say
Yeah,
that we should
that
continue.
we should
to
continue.
do it.
Rome
But I'm
wasn't
saying that
built
we
in a
don't
day.
support each other. So now I think we are the new generation of people that we are, especially in this country at least, that we are now beginning to like own things and support each other. And I think that we will grow as a society. We need to stop, like, not all black people, but I think a lot of black people kind of expect the white man to give us stuff like, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't you letting us in your company? Well, why should they? Do you know? I understand that this is divide, but let's be real here. In this human nature that we live in, there's always going to be divide, but we need to learn how to stick together and support each other.
But how do we do that when black people would never come unite together? That's the thing. That's always been.
I
we
think this
can't-
links to the history, and what I really wanted to say about the history. I know it's taken us back a bit, but and I agree with your point when you said that when you keep on referring to one point in time, it's going to make you feel like crap. When you keep on talking about slavery, Martin Luther King was a great man. Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, these are great people, but their whole being, everything that they stand for, is overshadowed by a bad cause. It's
Yeah, but this is
overshadowed
the
by.
reasons why you should be proud to be black. It's not about
Exactly.
referring to the past to make yourself feel better
Exactly,
about
but
being
then
black.
the question is, what is there to make you proud to be black? When you go back home, you see poverty, you see struggle, you hear about slavery, and this is where I think we always talk about how a piece of our history is missing. I want to ask you, do you know who, someone? His name's Mansa Musa the First.
Is that the first billionaire?
I think
He's the richest person to ever live, and he was black. He was an African. He was the ruler of the Malian Empire. Stuff like that. That's only one thing. When we look at history of other races,
Why do you think we've never heard of him? Because they try to diminish our history.
I think this is getting very, very heated, guys.
Yeah,
We
it
can
is.
go
It's
on
really-
and on and on.
It's a
and
deep
on.
topic. It's a
and
deep.
to be honest, I think there's no certain answers. There's no
There's
certain
no
answers
one
because
answer.
there's so many different perspectives. But I think in order for something like this to change, it's like there needs to be some sort of enlightenment. And I've always said this. I feel like you can poke at this situation, poke there, and like one person can research about the history and another person, but until together as a movement, black people are. I always see this.
Yeah,
Is,
yeah,
but
you're right.
if there's a huge movement for black people to support themselves, that's when we'll see change.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, we're black people in a white man's land.
Yeah,
Let's be honest.
so
When you say stuff like why should they employ us or why should they do this, why should they?
Yeah.
Really and truly, we should be building our own empire
Exactly,
in Africa.
true.
And you know that's what I
Bottom
think.
line is I'm proud of this. It's melanin, so
I'm proud.
Let me give you guys something, right?
I think that if I let you start, we're not going to finish
No,
today.
yeah, but
And I think we're running out of time. I think we're running
Round
out
it
of
up,
time
round
today, so I mean we can catch up behind the scenes. But yes, thank you guys for joining us today, and see you next time on Opinionated.
thank you.